delighted to be joined by Jacky today. I think this is timely. 1st of June is a bit of a milestone in the coronavirus pandemic crisis, and because it's really the day that lockdown in many ways gets lifted for many businesses. Employees can, starting to come back maybe, and at least phasing that process back. So it really feels timely to have a HR perspective on this and what it means, lifting furlough, bringing employees back, and how businesses can do that effectively. I'm not going to spoil all of that by going into it too much, but just to set the scene really. So Jacky is and some of you may already know Jacky, but she's a local HR specialist, specializes in working with small and medium-sized businesses, but has got a fantastic background and experience helping all sorts of businesses, all sorts of sizes, but really specializes these days in the SME market. So hope I'm not getting any of this wrong, Jacky. I'm sure you can put me on.
That's absolutely spot on. Yes, I have a very wide background, corporate background, before I moved into the smaller, medium-sized market.
Great experience to be sharing with us today. And I think, from talking to you, Jacky, in the past, knowing a little bit about you, I know you try and develop pragmatic approaches for the SME market, because for SMEs, it's critical to get that balance right between having good HR support and good HR systems, but not overly heavy on the process and policy that is too much for a small business to support and maintain. So it's getting that balance right. And I think you try and get that balance and tread that line very carefully for your clients and for businesses in general. So really pleased to have you on the call today and find out a bit more about you and what you feel about HR coming through out of lockdown.
Fine, interesting time. Yeah. Okay.
So why don't we start, Jacky, by just telling us a little bit more about yourself, because more than I can tell anybody.
No, that's great. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on here today, Gareth. And hopefully, the participants will go away knowing a little bit more. Bit about me and my business. Okay, well, I was born in Tyne and Wear, believe it or not, and then at 5 years of age, I moved down to Oxfordshire, and that's where I grew up. And had my big corporate, if you like, HR career. And eventually in 2004, started my own consultancy, and that covered manufacturing, because my background was retail, but I moved into manufacturing. I did assignments in the NHS, telecoms, biotechnology, the niche pharma, intelligence market. So quite a wide variety, really, as you can imagine, sort of in the Oxfordshire area. Eventually I moved back to the North East. I now live in Norfolk and have done since 2013. Relaunched my HR business here, and predominantly started building my business in Norfolk. Lots of small independent businesses, and so I thought I was able to support them. And yes, so like many other things, grow very much through referral. I picked up what you were saying about my pragmatic approach, and yes, it is. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, there are employment legislation, which is my specialism, is there, and it's there for a reason. So we have a plethora of it. But from a day-to-day basis, helping a small business to get their head around it, it's about how it works in practice, what the practicalities are, etc. So yes, and so that's pretty much a bit about my background and how I've come to be. And of course, you and I met through pretty much through business networking, really. So thank you again for inviting me on today.
Well, that's right, and you're welcome. It's great to have you on. I'm just worried there may be some audio issues, Jacky, because I've had a question. Can they hear you?
Can they hear me?
Yeah. So Wendy's asking, should she be able to hear you? Wendy can't hear you, but Catherine can, but with some feedback.
Oh.
Interesting.
Okay. I'm just wondering what.
Leslie can hear fine. Michelle can hear fine. So, Wendy, I'm afraid it may be something with your audio, I'm afraid, because everybody else seems to be able to hear okay.
Okay, that's good. I can't actually see anything on here that might help.
Yeah. No, it seems okay. So, Yeah, thanks for that, Jacky. Just that little intro. Hopefully Wendy can resolve her audio issues.
But if not, Wendy can always touch base with me afterwards if she'd like to.
Great, that's fantastic. We'll have the contact details up, and we'll send them out afterwards as well. If anybody does have any questions for Jacky as we go through this, please do type them into the chat box, and we'll either blend them into the conversation as we go, or we'll save them for the end, depending on how things are going. So, but please do type them in as they come up, and I'll decide how to introduce them into the conversation, Jacky.
Okay.
But I won't put you on the spot in the middle of something. So.
Yeah, I'm used to that too, so don't worry.
Thinking on your feet, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah.
So let's deal with the big one first. I think furlough rules have just been changed. Some new announcements. So dealing with this whole situation of the ongoing furlough, the changing of the rules, defurloughing employees as we start to come out of lockdown and start to build up again. So what are the rules as we know them right now? That might be a big question, but might take a little bit of time.
I'll just break that down a bit. Well,
break
obviously,
it down a bit for us.
Furlough ongoing, if you like. It's here to stay for quite some time. We are still getting a very, very strong message from the government to say, please stay at home if you can work from home. But the idea is to try, in line with the lifting of restrictions on lockdown generally, to try and encourage some form of return to work. The aim is to do it on a slow basis. Don't rush it is a very, very strong message coming through still. So it's about is there work that can still be done at home? If so, please just continue to do that. Where it can't, then you need to think about how you're going to bring your employees back in. The furlough payment, I think most people will be aware now, is here to stay for quite some time, but there are changes ahead. We've got the 80% will continue, but it looks like from August that employers are going to be required to make a contribution. Initially, that's just to cover the NI and the pension contribution costs from the employer perspective. Right. But then from September, the government's looking for an employer to pay those costs and 10% of the 80%. And then from October, those costs plus 20%. So, we don't know that this is all going to finish in October. We're not quite sure where it's going to lead, but that's what we know at this moment in time. There are employers out there who have already made known that they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle to do that. And that is worrying because that could be the trigger for, a closure of business, etc. And the whole aim of this furloughing is to try and keep people in employment. We don't know, although I'm aware that a number of businesses would have made these people redundant already if it hadn't been for the furlough payments. I think it's reasonable to assume that if this wasn't there and if it goes down and it becomes a burden, that it is going to see a closure of business. So it's a very, very, very difficult one. It's a hard one to follow, and all we can do is try and kickstart business so that there is some revenue coming in. So defurloughing, I think that's the next area. So basically stated from the 1st of July, part-time working and part furloughing is permitted, but it's very much subject to the building, the workplace, in other words, being suitable for people to return to safely. And the emphasis is on that word safely. The government have produced something called the 8 papers. There's one for each particular industry and sector, which is the guideline for an employer. That's the starting point, really, about what you need to have in place to make it safe for those people to return to work. Clearly, sanitising stations on entry and that kind of thing, shared facilities, sanitising there. Every time somebody visits the loo, goes and puts a kettle on. You know, it might look over the top, but it's there to provide this whole washing of hands and just not being able to pass on any infection. The World Health Organization is saying we are not out of the woods at all yet, and all part of this return to work in some form of normality is really testing the water as well, as to, you know, what's going to happen. So it's a bit of a risk in many ways, but at the same time you've got to balance that and kind of getting back to some kind of work and businesses to be able to survive, never mind thrive. You know, we are still very much looking at, are we going to survive this? So yes, that's the whole idea of this part furlough and part-time. So people might be needing to work in a very different way initially. So returning to work will not probably look anything like it did before they left. There will be part-time working, definitely changes perhaps to rotas, maybe some shift working. So opening up the building at different times if it's manufacturing. There's a whole host of things, but the government 8 papers is certainly the starting point for defurloughing.
So say that again, Jacky, the government...
8 papers. They're called the 8 papers. There's pretty much one for every industry sector. Okay. So that's the starting point for any business. Take a look at your sector, your industry, and get familiar with that.
And they're available on the government website at gov.co.uk or gov.uk.
I don't know. Before anybody asks me, no, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but they are there, and that's, you know, they're there to support and help you prepare. And obviously, I'm doing this also from an HR perspective. I'm talking, but this is for you as a business to make sure that, you know, you are allowed to start this from 1st of July.
Yeah. Okay. How
and
does
HR, sorry, I was going to say HR is very much there, certainly in a business, to support the business owners in getting this right. Very much so. You know, and also, if you think about it, it's about communicating what we're going to be doing with staff and everybody else and suppliers. There's so much, so much to do.
Well, that's right. Yeah, bringing everybody back and getting all of the operations back up and running in a controlled way, but in a managed way as well, because you don't want to have 100% capacity when perhaps the sales are not at 100% yet. So it's bringing all of that in a lockstep fashion.
And working in a different way. How much can continue from home? You know, some businesses are thriving, I have to say, from home. But if you think about it, an advisable thing to do, if you haven't already, and it's much harder for a very small business, is to get a proper health and safety assessment on the building, because the last thing you want to be doing, unwittingly, is bringing employees back in to cause harm to them or your customer base, which depends on what you've got. Like big car showrooms and things are opening up now because they're big enough to have that space, you know, between things, and all the shielding with the plastic shields and things. It means that, you know, we're seeing this in shops too.
Right.
But in a small office where there's 3 of you working, and if it's all customer interface, you know, how's that? You've got to really think through how that's going to work to protect the employee as well. Okay.
And guidance on that from a health and safety point of view, and is that... Well,
the health and safety executive is absolutely the place.
Right.
They are very geared up for this. There is all sorts of support out there, but I would definitely get in touch with health and safety executive and just explain. You've looked at your government paper. This is what you understand whatever to be, and you just want to make sure. I know hairdressers. There was one on the news the other night, and they were talking about people having to ring just before their appointment to get it confirmed. They're not allowed to sit inside anymore and look through magazines and have a cup of coffee. They almost want them to wait in a car park, and they're going to text them, say, right, you can come in now.
Right.
Everything going back to normal is not going to go back to normal. What's normal? It's going to be quite different for some time, and I think that's what we've got to accept. And you know, we're all in this very similar place right now. Things are going to look very, very different. And we've got to start thinking about what this means. So from an HR perspective, what this means to your employees. I think so many people, when everybody was just furloughed at once, we were all in the same boat, you know, it was like, well, we're all at home, we're all on lockdown, but now it looks like we're moving more into an area where some people will return, some will want to, but cannot. They've got lots of other issues to consider. They're homeschooling still. Schools for their age group, they cannot return their children to school. They can't get childminders. So I think from an HR point of view, we've got to think very carefully about who has been asked to come back first and how they can make that. And we need to have, above all, to protect the business, some kind of an audit trail about our communication strategy with people. And there's lots that we need to be doing actually now before we even come back. We've got lots of preparatory time between now and the 1st of July. But staying in touch with the employee, but whether it's in Microsoft Teams or Zoom, Zoom, gosh, we're all zoomed out to a certain extent, I know. But thank God for technology in many ways, because it's been a lifesaver for a lot of people. It's just, we need to think about how we connect with staff, bearing in mind there are other things that are going on at home. Their home isn't their home anymore. It's a school, it's a craft centre, it's everything other than just, it's a workplace, you know. Trying to have just a home now is not so easy. And the blurring, lots of blurring going on between working from home as well. And all those stresses. So I think larger organisations, if I call them that on, far better geared up for having employee assistance programs and things in place, talking therapies. So I think even small businesses
mentioned there
to have. Really... Are you still there, Gareth? Hi, can everybody still hear me? I seem to have lost Gareth. I'm not quite sure where he is. We're having some technical issues, I think, here.
I'm back.
Oh, that's fine. That's okay. I didn't know whether everybody else could still hear me, so I've just kind of stopped talking.
Again, so yeah, I think
where are we? Oh, lost Gareth again. Are we back?
I'm back for now.
Okay. I don't know what the audience, how much they're able to still hear me. That's why I'm kind of just stopping when and Gareth's gone. Maybe it's the heat. Gareth, when it stops, does everybody, can they still hear?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just me that's tripping out or whether everybody is, but when I log on, everybody still seems to be here, so I'm assuming they can hear you, but it's just
okay. All right. Okay. All right. So yeah. So where were we? Were we still on the kind of like the deferral?
Yeah. Right. Well, I think I've got two questions that come out of what you were saying there. One is about the communication, which I think we'll come back to. But the second one was around the change in the rules. So employers are going to be expected to pay a certain amount of the furlough payments going forward, 10% and then 20%. But then employers can also bring their employees in part-time. How does the part-time work with the part payments of furlough? You know, do they go hand in hand? If you bring someone back part-time, do you then not have to pay the 10 and 20% of furlough? You know, how does that all work?
Going back a bit, right? Okay. at this moment in time, the way it was set up originally, you could, because it was furlough pay was paid in 3-week blocks. So you could have somebody furloughed and then maybe have a week's work for them and pay them. When they're working, the critical thing to remember is you must pay them at their 100%.
Okay.
So when they're coming back into the workplace, the hours that they're doing work, you must be paying them their normal pay and benefits and everything else. Okay. Benefits continue anyway, but when they're furloughed, then that's where the 80% is. Now, I do know some small employers have actually been continuing to pay the 100%. But they have said to me, Jacky, we can't continue to do this going forward. It's going on, it's going on longer. None of us know this is going to end.
Yeah.
But, so we have to go with it 80%. What do we do? I said, well, you're going to need to make sure you fully communicate this now to your staff because it's a change. It's kind of a breach, technically, in the contractual terms and conditions brought about because of the pandemic, understandably. And it's safeguarding their job in many ways. Otherwise, they might not have a position. So the job retention scheme is very much about continuing to keep them in employment. So when this is all phasing in, so from July, part-time working, part furlough, that's exactly what it will be. So HMRC will pay the bit when they're not working, and you, the employer, pays the full amount when they are.
If you bring someone back half-time, so 50% of their working week, you will pay all of their salary for the time that they're in work, and then the government will pay 80% of the remainder, including national insurance, for that amount of time. And
yes, correct.
And
that's the same when it starts to scale down as well.
Right.
Yeah. So employers' costs are going up,
and
the government's contributions going down, pretty much.
Okay. So on that example, again, just to be clear, the employee is on 50% time, so they will be paid their 50% of their salary by the employer, and then 10% of the 50%.
Yes.
Through the furlough scheme once that kicks in, and so it's going to get really complicated.
And it is getting very complicated. Thank goodness for payroll bureaus.
Right.
But part-time doesn't have to be 50%. It could be 20%. It could be whatever it is safe to bring the employee back in to do, and you can accommodate. And as I said, people might have to share this work out on a rota basis as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's about kick-starting, but only if safe to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So there is really going to be a tapering of the things going on, and the opportunity to scale up your capacity as your market starts to rebound and come back online.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Excellent. So I think, as you've alluded to, Jacky, coming back to work is going to be a big change again for many people. Employees have had 2-3 months off almost, if they've been on furlough.
All of April, all of May at least, so, and a bit of March.
Yeah, and then coming back is going to mean not just coming back and having to work again, but also the new rules around social distancing and infection consciousness about everything you touch and everywhere you go in the workplace. So that's going to be quite stressful, and different stresses that employees and employers are used to. So what can employers do to reduce that stress and help their employees to come back, be effective and be efficient when they come back to work, and not to have this stress response going on?
Well, dare I say it, on a very pragmatic basis, it's about talking.
Okay.
Everybody's different. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. All your staff are very different people. They've all got different issues going on. This has affected them all quite differently.
Yeah.
You often get the people who say, oh, I'm fine, I'm coping very well, but deep down inside, they're the ones not sleeping at night or whatever. So, we need to be very caring, very mindful about what's going on, because this is by no means turning to normal. A lot of people are working from home, so it's not about returning to work. Some of those people can then bring the work back into a workplace. So the workplace is going to change. Some people will still be at home. Some people will be in that workplace. So again, it's not this all we're all in it together in the same way. where there's a bonding and a strength when that goes on between people. So, again, more divergence is going on. And I think it's really important to be aware of that and to talk to your staff and find out how, in many ways, they want you to communicate about this to them. People have different preferences. It's important to have a one-to-one, definitely. Team chats, group chats, brilliant as well. You're keeping up to date what's going on, what the plans are. I think the more transparent you are with your staff, the more you'll be respected for that. They're not silly. They are going to be very, very worried about their long-term future. Whatever you can do, get ideas from those staff. Just say, look, this is what we're thinking of doing. If we can do this, this is what we can do. What could your contribution be? If you've got any ideas, get people involved.
Yeah.
Become a voice.
Yeah.
And that's a really pragmatic point of view. That's not a government thing. That's a Jacky thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you need to also think about your own protection. And I hate to say this, but can you audit, what you're doing, how you're communicating with them? It's definitely worth an email. We had a conversation. We talked about this. This is how it's going to make sure for your own protection to head off any future employment tribunals or things like that and grievances. Goes to a minimum, and it is about communicate regularly in a way that they can find a time of day and night when the little ones aren't around. Maybe it's hard, very hard inviting people onto Zoom when the kids are at home schooling or chucking water around because it's nice weather outside and you've still got to watch over them. It is different. This is just not like normal work. So let's be practical about this.
What do you see as the main differences in managing and leading employees that are working within the setting, within the business, versus those that are working from home?
Very good question. And we have got two camps, very much so. So for those that are, again, working from home, they will still need to be communicating with their teams because whatever they're working on is it's working towards lifting the business out or keep the business afloat or whatever. So that's all good. That's good. Good news. Share that. But equally, the impact it's actually having on orders or depending on your business, so that you can talk as a team about what more you can be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, what the lessons learned are this week, what the plans are for the following week. So, that's very, very important. And how it's going to work with them working from home and some of the others working in the workplace. It really is increasing the communication. As I said, technology can be a nuisance, but it can also be a boon at the moment. And I think we've got to embrace it. It might mean we need to do some retraining. Make sure that people do understand how to use, Zoom, for instance, properly. A WhatsApp chat would be quite nice as well between a few of them maybe, but just a good, getting on the phone to your employees, speaking to them, especially if you've got small numbers. That's important. I know loads are doing that. I know people are doing some socials. They're doing like a virtual coffee and chats. They're doing virtual pizzas, virtual glass of wine on Friday evening because it's the end of the week. Try and keep some routines going because you're all in this together. Your staff are your business as well. You are their life too in terms of employment.
And that message of communicating and almost over communicating so important, isn't it? That so that everybody still feels connected with each other and knows what's going on, and they're not being isolated from the information flow, particularly if they're working from home. But equally that the people who are working within the setting know that the people working at home are doing their bit as well and pulling their weight. So really important.
What everybody's doing is keeping in touch, really. At its most basic level, that's what it's about.
But the onus really falls on the leader there in the business, doesn't it, to pull all of that together, much as a leader should maybe, but much more so in terms of the communication and the use of technology to make that happen and innovative ways of making it work.
And leaders can work with their sort of nominated teams and things as well, because that leader is equally, just believe it or not, as stressed and as worried also about the business. They might not be sleeping at all well at night and they haven't got all the answers. This is hate that word unprecedented because it's used a lot, but it's so true. We are all in a very, very, very different place for business.
So I think you also alluded to the idea that one of the reasons for communicating is to almost make sure that the process is fair, or at least that it's perceived as fair. And I wonder what your feeling is, taking the temperature of your clients around the attitude and the frame of mind of employees right now in terms of how they're being treated by their employer, and the fairness of some people working from home, some people expected to work within the site. And are you anticipating an increase in tribunals, for example? I hope it doesn't come to that, but just those are the kinds of ideas that.
Right. Lots of questions in there.
Yeah, lots of questions there.
No, it's fine. I think it's very important to, when you're looking at your staff and you're do it a bit as a group, because people will think, why me? And also be mindful. You can't expect somebody to come back into a workplace easily when they have got either they're a main carer, and that person, elder carer that is at home for them, or their children, or homeschooling, or illness. Or they're worried about if they come back because they've got people in their family that might be shielding because of long-term illnesses or immune system problems. They're going to be terrified. So I think it's about being reasonable, and again, having that conversation. If I were to tell you I've put this in place, so it's finding out what their concerns are. Some people more readily can do that, and an easing in, a phasing in is a sensible thing to do. So build up their exposure to this different workplace. Ask questions.
So it's a good point. I guess for some businesses this will be second nature because they take into account their employees' points of view anyway, and even to the point of flexible working and making that happen. But for some businesses, this may be quite a different way of operating. To actually ask your employee, what do you want from work? Can you come in? What hours can you do? These are questions which are quite alien for some employers.
Well, yeah. Because they've got a contract, haven't they? They work 9 to 5, don't they? And that's it. And if they can't do it, then they're not doing their contract. Well, hey, we're in a very different operation now. And it's interesting because from an HR perspective and from a business perspective, I suspect, in fact, I know it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of people actually saying, I very successfully contributed business working from home. Some of them will enjoy, some will be feeling far more productive.
Right.
So I do think we are going to get some people suggesting that that's still an alternative going forward. Flexible working requests are now available to everybody anyway. They're not just for, as they used to be, with childcare or maybe carer. Anybody can request, and a company has got to give it reasonable due consideration. Okay. There's still the 8 reasons why they can refuse it. But, if people can demonstrate how they've been able to work now. So it's interesting. I heard the other day a company were looking at expanding. Well, they're getting a much bigger unit to work from. But with this lockdown and having people working from home things, they've cancelled it.
Oh, really? Right.
Because they're realising they can cut back on some of their costs. They don't need to have this bigger site. So I really genuinely feel that this is going to be a massive awakening to a lot of businesses, and think outside the box. How can we work in a different way? Because they're bleeding money at the moment. They're not bringing business in. So we've got to find a way to help them when they get back on their feet, keep their costs at an absolute minimum as much as possible.
Right. Yeah.
And that could be one way, maybe, working in a different way.
Yeah, good. I think it's quite an exciting time, actually, for the changes that can be happening in businesses. That there's been, at least for some sectors, maybe more than others, the fear of flexible working and what that might mean. And
what will people be doing, really? They'll just be at home, putting the washing machine on and cooking dinner. They won't be working. Yeah. Well,
and that might be true.
It's an old-fashioned idea. The amount of people actually often that work from home put in more effort. that's a reality, because they are concerned that people might think that about them. But hey, so what if they put the washing machine on? That doesn't matter.
Well, as long as you get your work done.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I think exciting times ahead for many businesses. An opportunity to change the way they operate, and to have sampled remote working and what it can mean for their business. Is an opportunity that they've had out of this that they perhaps wouldn't have had otherwise. So a real chance to change the way they operate, and as you've said, reduce their cost base quite dramatically in some cases.
Yeah. And again, it's about, everybody's going to be different for everybody, so it's not going to happen overnight. But what an opportunity to sit back and reflect on actually what's not worked and what has worked and worked well, and what could you build on, take that forward.
Good point. Reflect on what's happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the key there that you mentioned was to talk to your employees and find out where they're at. If we're thinking about their mindset and their
attitude,
actually ask them and find out what they're thinking. Yeah,
definitely. Because at the moment, some of them are craving going back to normal workplace, but they've got these restrictions on them because of, as I said, having children to school and things at home, or in the home not being the home. So there's a bit of I'd like to escape from all of this, but they can't. So that it's a worry. They're also massively worried as well about long-term, what's going to happen about my job, future. So the poor employer is equally, they're all having sleepless nights for lots of different reasons, because most good employers care deeply about looking after their staff. It's a worrying time for everybody. So, what can people, that's why I think, mindset right now is all over the place. It's probably set with worries and frustrations and wanting normality, but equally scared to do so. So trying to get, that mindset attitude. When none of us really know, in fairness, it's hard. It's fine if you know what the thing is, but when it's unknown, it's a bit trickier. So we can just be sympathetic and reasonable, and there are, as I said, employee assistance groups out there, maybe some talk and therapy. Just find other people in the same boat, get some support, some moral support as well. And if the employer can facilitate that by, an HR saying, here's some ideas for the staff and contacting, if that would help them. Just put things out there.
Yeah, good. And I think, as you've said, it can be stressful for the employers as well, because the balance
let's
now.
Let's not underestimate that. It really, really is. They don't want this. They don't want their business to fold or whatever. They're terrified, really, and also got the added worry of their staff and paying them.
Yeah, no, that's right. And developing this growth strategy, which can be challenging enough, but having to take into account all of these additional factors, such as distancing and the employees' attitudes and what they want as well. All of that's got to be factored into the strategy now.
Yeah, just be mindful that employees will be wanting very much for their organisation to survive, but they've got fear, and we all know what fear can do. It's like a rabbit in the headlights sometimes. So, but I mean, to help people keep positive, there's lots of different things. The communication through work, but also, I don't know, it's are they getting enough exercise, diet? We all know. I hate this damn lockdown, because in many ways I'm sure I've put on a pound a week. It's just like, oh my goodness me, we'll all be thinking, how on earth are we going to get back? So, maybe some group Zoom, keep fit sessions to treat the staff, anything just to have a bit of fun and lift the mood a little bit. People talk about meditation and how that can help, being grateful for what you have got and things in the morning before you start your day. And, as I said, no one size fits all, but there's lots of things that the employer and the teams or somebody in your staff can be talking to others about. What could you set up as self-help groups? Yeah,
great. No, that's good. So we, as you've said, we don't know what's going to happen next. In many cases, we don't know what the scale of recovery is going to be, what the speed of recovery is going to be. And for many businesses, and perhaps in some sectors more than others, redundancy may be inevitable, or if the recovery is slower, then redundancy may end up being something that businesses have to face. So what are some of the things that employers can do to plan ahead for this without setting alarm bells off for employees, of course, but putting this growth strategy in place, I guess, but also planning ahead for the contingency of, well, what happens if we don't grow as quickly and we have to face redundancies?
Well, it's when that word redundancy strikes fear, doesn't it? Because it is, it's horrifying. If you look at the basic meaning, it means that the work's diminished. There isn't enough work anymore. So, and then you've got to pay somebody to go. No business really wants to do that. So it's thinking around maybe how you might be able to, through consultation. It's consultation with everybody to see with business leaders, with the team, how can we best protect everybody's work? Can people afford to reduce their hours? And after this, to maintain so that they can grow the business, then incrementally take their hours back up. It's all got to be consulted on. Some people will say yes, some people will say no. And for those that just can't do it, then there is a potential redundancy there. But maybe for a while, and it might well be that you try something for a month or two and just see how it's supporting the business. And if that works, it's positive, and then increase hours back up again.
Okay. Yeah, it's that phased approach again, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've just got to think outside the box and think for the good of the people in the business as much as you can.
I'm a big advocate of open book management, about having complete transparency about the financial health of the business. And that seems as though it's more important now than it ever was. But I also know open book management, the very idea of it strikes fear into the heart of many business executives. Yeah.
I think they think, oh, you've got all that money, should you give me another pay rise? I think that's, do you know what I mean? It's very, but when you think about, but you're right, Gav, the more open you are about how much money has to be invested back in the business, you need those contingencies for a business to survive. It can't just work on the money that's come in.
Yeah.
So, and I think, education, staff about it, get them involved maybe more in the business. Yeah, whole idea of in Germany, I think, that workers' councils and forums, they see all the papers.
Yeah.
It works there, and they've got the loyalty of the staff as a result as well.
That's right.
So you want, well, great. Well, let's think of another initiative that's going to fund that for you.
Well, that's right. And, maybe this is an opportunity because we do want to communicate more with employees and help them to understand what's going on, whether to feel secure, but also to understand what the reality is. I think if you only ever communicate good news to your employees, they immediately become suspicious that what's really going on, because it can't always be good news. So we've got to get that balance right. And one way to do that is to, as you've said, educate them about how a business makes money and generates cash. And
exactly. What are targets? Did we miss them? Exactly. How did we miss them? What could we do differently in the next quarter or whatever? What's everybody else doing in our same industry sector? How are we comparing? What can we learn from them? It's about, Yeah.
And then they've got an opportunity to be part of the solution as well, haven't they? Because they understand their role within the business's financial performance. So,
Gareth, that's where you're hitting on something that's very dear to me. Employee engagement is huge, and I'm a great believer that it can make and break an organisation. The person doing the job is probably one of the best placed to help make it work satisfactorily.
That's it. Yeah, but I believe also that that's only completely true if they've got line of sight from their role to the bottom line or the financial performance of the business, and that's where the open book management's often a missing key in employee engagement programs.
I agree. Certainly in corporate world, I think in smaller businesses have got an opportunity to be far more transparent.
Absolutely.
They grow through the support of each other. Without that particular employee, there's a big cog suddenly missing in that wheel, because So it is about thinking different again, dare I say it, more understanding what other colleagues do, maybe a bit of cross-working, multi-skilling to support one another rather than fearing it. Embrace it and welcome, because it keeps everybody more able to contribute and cover for each other.
Yeah.
All this thing about job share again that used to happen years ago, and I don't know quite. It seems to have moved just to casual and hiring new employees and things, and there's no long-term security with that. I just think we're going to have to think very, very differently.
That seems to be a theme coming out of our conversation here, Jacky. It's the need to be flexible and to involve people more in different and innovative ways in making the business successful again.
Absolutely, and I think HR have got a role to play in that, but only so much as making sure that people are thinking about how to engage their staff as well.
Yeah, good. So as we start to come towards the end here, Jacky, what other HR issues should employers be thinking about and anticipating as we start to come out of lockdown?
Well, I'd be doing it now, pretty much. I think there's no time like the present. We've got this little window, I sent a message out before we even start to look at potentially being allowed to do this part-time, part-furloughing and growing. Look at your organisation's structure. Look at how you're currently set up. Is that model going to work for you now, going forward? Is it time to, if the inevitable happens and some people are going to lose their jobs, what is it you really need to start again in a slightly different way, working in a different way? I would certainly think that is an opportunity to start doing now. Think about your business model, how you employ people, as well.
How you employ them, as in contracts, the nature.
More initially more flexible working. Is there some opportunity for outsourcing? There's a lot of freelancers and things out there that you could be drawing on their expertise. Again, particularly while you are going through this case of not wanting that as a huge overhead cost. They can come in and support your business,
Okay. So, I'm coming towards the end of my questions here. I just want to give everybody on the call a chance to ask their questions if they have any. Please do type them in as I asked Jacky my last question, and then we'll come straight to your questions as well. So, thinking about the issues that are coming out of lockdown, what about the second wave? We hear a lot about the risk of the second wave, and as we allow people to move around more widely within society again, that risk becomes ever more present. As an issue for HR and for employment, how do you see that? And what people can do to plan for that?
I wish I had a crystal ball, Gareth. No, I don't. But I think what we've got to do is just look at what's happening elsewhere and in other countries. Maybe it's odd. Well, I say it's odd, but I know the UK with the numbers are crazy. I know we have an incredibly high density of population there in the UK. Has that got something to do with it? This whole thing about easing of lockdown and having more people going out, we're testing water all the time. And I think it's inevitable that in some parts of the country there's going to be a repeat. And, that means some businesses in regionally based areas, they won't have to go through another lockdown.
Right.
I don't know that it would make sense to do that. I know there's a lot of us up in the north feel that, because it was easing in London, great. Why didn't they just do the lockdown easing there and knock us on a 2 weeks later? I mean, it was just interesting to see the weekend. Humans, I think we've been that caged in, people just couldn't wait to get out.
Yeah, went a bit wild.
Scary. I don't actually, watching the news sometimes I find very difficult because, it just strikes with fear. I've got an elderly mother and it's like, oh my God, I'm looking forward to seeing her sitting in a garden at a safe distance, and is that going to happen? So, I think we've all got, fear is still very much there, but at the same time, we can't let it stimulate us completely. We need to think about how we're going to sensibly do this. But What's
Yeah.
the future? I don't know. Could we have
Okay.
another lockdown? I don't know.
I think one of the issues that employers are going to be facing is with the track and trace approach of every new case, their contacts will be approached and will be expected to isolate for 14 days. So this problem of you starting to bring people back to the business, and then at random people could be taken out again for 14 days at a time.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned earlier about trying to now start multi-skilling
Right.
employees, so we can be covering for each other if that does happen. So you've got some coverage with expertise. So yeah.
And do we know if the furlough scheme is going to be made more flexible? Because currently, as you've said, it's in this 3-week block.
That's going to change. Yeah, that's moved. I think that model's moved now from the 1st of July to allowing people to work part-time hours where they're paid. That will all go in, and critically for employers, you need to keep a record, because HMRC are most definitely going to audit this.
Yeah.
They can't get around everybody, but they're going to audit it. They are already. We know that it's been abused.
Right.
So it is going to be audited. So just make sure you do have a good record. You can evidence when people are
timesheets for every employee.
Working enough. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Some places have clocking in things, don't they? But small businesses don't. Not. Yeah. But you are going to need some means of so communicating, right, whether it's an email. Hi, you're in 2 days this week working the hours of X and X, just for a chat. But you've got to have some way of evidence in that.
So from what you've said, the 3-week blocks are going to disappear, and it's going to be effectively on a week-by-week basis going forward then, is it? Or even on a day-by-day basis?
Well, yeah, because it depends on what's going on, and that's where the flexibility of staff coming in it's going to be very challenging, because it's really doing that. So I think it's far better just to sit down now and think, well, what if? So if we can bring people in, at the end of the day, you're paying them. So, but please try and remember that people are still at home homeschooling, and that's not going to potentially change until after some holidays. So you've got to think about that's why all those conversations now about when we can get people back in, how are you fixed, how can you support, and getting that very, very clear now as to who you then start to bring in. Don't assume that they can't, though. That's the other thing, because then they will have a grievance with you. So it's about asking.
Yeah, indeed. So I'm going to ask my last question, and I'm just going to give everybody a chance to type their questions if they have any into the chat box. One last chance while I ask my last question, just a small one. So please get typing your questions. Last chance to ask Jacky a question if you have one. And my last question is, what's inspiring you most about the way employers and employees have handled this, as you've said, unprecedented situation? What's inspired you most?
I think that people are in it together, and they are genuinely doing what they can to support each other. It's human nature, and it's good to see. I mean, throughout this thing, just neighbours supporting each other, getting prescriptions for each other. Human nature is to want to help the person who needs the support the most. And if we carry that on into work, in the workplace, and be sympathetic and empathetic with everybody else's situation.
Right.
We'd all like to be back there doing what we were doing before, but it's going to take a while, Gareth. And I think, just be kind.
Be kind.
Yeah. Don't think, oh, they're at home and I'm back here.
Yeah.
Very
good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Jacky. So going to questions. We've got one question, which is, and I think we've covered it, but let's just make sure.
That's fine.
If we bring staff in as part-time, can they still receive some furlough pay from the government?
Yes, they can. Indeed, they can. They will still be entitled to that 80% of pay. So for the hours they're not working, they'll still be getting the 80% of pay.
And if they're brought back part-time, they'll be getting 80% of the hours that they're not working.
Correct. So the hours they work, they get 100%.
Yeah.
And then the hours they don't work, it will be 80%
from the government.
paid of those hours that they haven't worked. Yeah.
Yeah. as we've said, it's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's all the questions we have.
Good. Okay.
So if anybody does have other questions or they would like to get in touch with you, Jacky, how can they do that?
Well, if you've got a slide for me,
Do.
I think there's one slide I just wanted to show you. This one.
Okay.
It's a lovely slide, and it speaks volumes. It's called strength, and strength doesn't come from what you can do. It comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't.
Very good. Yeah.
I think it's good for now. It is good for now. It'll make you think about it. But my contact details are on the next slide. So if you've got your cameras or whatever to the ready, your phones, just just take a photograph. I'm there, so yeah, there to support.
Excellent. Thanks, Jacky. Any final comments? Any final thoughts? Have I gone? Have I?
No, you're still there. You're still there, Gareth.
Yeah. Do you have any final comments or thoughts?
Oh, sorry, you're talking to me.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No, nothing other than to say, stick with it, guys. Be strong and stay safe yourselves. And just keep doing the best that you can.
Great. Yeah. Fantastic. I think, for me, I guess two themes that have come out of this to summarize is communicate, communicate, communicate.
Yes.
You can't do that more than enough. And involve your employees in the decision makings so that they feel part of the process, that they don't feel as though they're being badly treated in any way, that it's a fair process, and they understand the reasons that certain decisions are being made. And the second one is flexibility. It's about having that flexible approach to everything and involving your employees again in that process of doing everything as flexibly as possible and being as innovative as you can in doing that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Innovation is good. Agility, we all need that.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, and that innovation doesn't necessarily mean it has to be reinventing the wheel. I think in this case, it's about taking some best practices from some of the most flexible businesses already out there,
yes,
and seeing what they've done already and bringing that in and applying it to this current situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, model those that are doing it the way you like to do it. Give it a go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and in some ways, not an awful lot to lose in giving it a go in this circumstance, because many businesses are starting from scratch.
Exactly. They're going to, yes, they are.
Yeah. Good. Well, there's no more questions there, Jacky. So just once again, just thank you for being on the call and sharing your wisdom with everybody who's been on here. Hopefully everybody's taken as much away from this as I have. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you very much, Gareth. And again, thanks very much for inviting me on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks, Jacky. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.